Good evening. This is from the course Risk and Project Management, OENG 1117. Well, our project topic is reducing the greenhouse gas emissions from the light vehicles. Well, we started off with our project by formulating the three milestones and covering all of them. We, the project managers consisting of four members. These are Reni, Nisa, Siddharth, and me, Madhav. This is the project overview and is the work breakdown structure of CO2 emission intensity database that is being given based on the vehicle attributes, vehicle category, and the sales data. Well, all this has been formulated in the 2019 carbon emission intensity report, which is given by the National Transport Commission of Victoria. Well, we are targeting Australia, and we all know that in Australia, the major problem is from the major emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, are from the transport sector. These all states have some or other way of transport problems. So it has been given in the pictorial manner. Well, our target is reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. So certain policies and standards have already been formed and implemented from the Commonwealth and the state governments. These are uh, Emission Reduction Fund, Climate Change Act, Environmental Protection Agency, and the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industry. These are some of the standards and policies and agencies. Well, from our report, uh, it's clearly shown that we have some major internal stakeholders which we are working collaboratively. Some of these are the Transport Certification Australia, Australian Road Research Board, Transport Infrastructure Council, the Commonwealth Government, and the state government and the territory government. Well, the external stakeholders are the private sector, the community, and the major automotive industries. Yeah. So the problem diagnosis. Problem diagnosis is going into the root cause. Well, we calculated the capital cost, the annual operating cost, and the residual cost of a particular type of vehicle, which we are going to explain you further. The resource that we have used is the 2019 Sustainability Report given by the NTC. So, for our project, we as an organization has targeted the different car based upon its fuel type. So, for example, we are considering an SUV medium, which is a light vehicle, and we have calculated and formulated the feasibility report based upon different fuel types. An important note to be considered: we haven't considered the electric vehicle, as we first of all we don't have the infrastructure. The second is that if it only works on electricity and is powered from the electricity grid, then that energy sector will be affected. So we don't want to affect uh, any other sector. The key performance indicator, that is for the CO2 emission intensity, is given by from a vehicle is given by fuel efficiency, the vehicle efficiency, the driving efficiency, and most importantly, the distance it traveled. This is the four viable options that we have selected based upon the NTC report. The first option is consider taking a gasoline powered IC engine. The second one is taking a conventional diesel engine and blending it with an alternative biodiesel, which consists of 5% ethanol and 95% diesel. The third option is taking a diesel powered IC engine. The fourth option is taking a hybrid vehicle, which is having the secondary engine as electric and the primary as a petrol. So we have considered all these four options based upon different fuel types on which the vehicle in a particular segment works. The main goal that we want to achieve is to raise the awareness and encourage our stakeholders to reduce the CO2 emission intensity, and most importantly, from a result we are going to tell the public the negative health and environmental effects that these fuels in some or other way may cause. Well, to start a project, there has to be some assumptions to be made. Well, the first assumption that we made is the all values are based on the Australian vehicle standards. The second is the time period. We assume a project time as 10 years because this is the time period. 2030 is the time period that has been given by the EPA to reduce CO2 emission intensity. We have to reach the target. The third is the capital cost of vehicle. Fuel cost and the fuel efficiency of different types of fuel are based on the market value. The vehicle running distance that we have assumed is 500 kilometers per month, which is approximately 6,000 kilometers that it's going to cover in annum. Well, we assume this value based upon the regional and the urban area large distances, as people or the private or any business related work has to be traveled from regional to the urban areas. The assumptions that we made for the economic appraisal is that the vehicle will have a significant impact on health and environment after 5 years, and this is all based upon the statistics that we can see from the NTC report. So we have taken this into consideration. The health and environment cost for the biodiesel and the hybrid were not given, and so were assumed. The carbon taxation has been assumed constant for the vehicle lifetime. Feasibility. The most important part of any project is the feasibility report, and it depends around economics and the non-economic assessment. So we had to do with all the different options that we have proposed above. So we prepared a feasibility report based upon the economics and the non-economic assessment. For the financial analysis of the petrol variant, the capital cost that we assume is 40,000. Well, it is of market value. It is a market value cost for a particular segment. The annual registration is 1750. The annual fuel cost is 1040, and the maintenance cost is $800. So if we add all of them, it will come around $43,590. That is the annual cost in the first year. From the second year onwards, we are going to add the fuel cost and the maintenance cost in it, and we'll be calculating the total annual cost of the petrol variant vehicle after 10 years. We are going to apply the same process for biodiesel, diesel, as well as hybrid vehicles. For the hybrid vehicles, the fuel cost we considered, for this is for the petrol, and this is the uh, electricity charges based on per kilowatt hour. For the calculation of economic appraisal, the carbon taxation. The carbon taxation, as given by the Australian government, is $23 per ton of the emitted greenhouse gas. For the petrol, it's 9 ton per annum. For diesel, it's 9.7. For biodiesel, it's 8.5. And for hybrid, it's 7.8 tons. So the carbon taxation value for petrol, it's 9 into 23. And similarly, for diesel, biodiesel, and hybrid, it's calculated. For the health environment cost, the petrol, it's 2.96. For diesel, it's 4.34. For biodiesel, it's 2.12. And for hybrid, it's 1.3. The assumed distance is 6,000 kilometers per annum. So for the petrol, it's 2.96. These all values are given per kilometer. So we have to multiply it by 6,000 for annual cost from the health and environment in terms of health and environment. So we converted all this into monetary values. So now to calculate the economic analysis, we are considering first of all the petrol variant. The annual emission in tons is 9 tons. The health environment cost is 2.96 per kilometer, and the annual kilometers that vehicle covered is 6,000. So from the calculations that has been shown previously, for the first year and for the next till 5 years, the health environment cost will remain, we assume, to be constant, which is 17,760, and the carbon taxation value has been kept constant for a decade. So adding the health environment cost and the carbon taxation value in the subsequent years will give us the total annual cost. So for the petrol variant, after 10 years, the total annual cost is $22,872. Similarly, we have done the same process for the biodiesel, and the annual cost comes out to be 16,398. For the diesel, it comes out to be 33,456. And for the hybrid, as we all know, it will have a significant lower health and environment impact. So the total annual cost based upon the economic analysis comes out to be $10,132.
Appraisal proposes modified designs to reduce environmental impacts, identifies feasible alternatives, engages and informs potentially affected communities and individuals, influences decision-making and the development of terms and conditions. We have used the rank sum method to be able to identify the social effects on the project and the other intervention. So we have surveyed 10 car buyers in Melbourne, Victoria, according to their preference and what they are looking for in buying a car. 7 criteria have been identified to which they can select the option. So we've got criteria 1 to be looks, cost, safety, functionality, performance, and technology, fuel economy, and the last is the environmental benefits. So we can see that from out of the 10 buyers, they are really concerned of safety as the first preference, and the second is cost. So with this data, we can also see that the environmental benefits is last within their list. And so we were able to determine the rating and the weighting from this survey. Next is we have also asked a car expert in Melbourne and asked to rate the scale for the 4 options that we have identified: petrol variant, biodiesel variant, diesel variant, hybrid, and according to the criteria that we have identified at first. With all this, we have the computation for the weighted score, and it came out that the best option is the biodiesel variant with the total score of 7.286. For the current scenario with the COVID-19, businesses are making a change to go online for post-COVID world to reduce the travel time, and it has been noticed that more customer interactions are being held much better in online. So change in purchases patterns from business and private sector will be taken into account in the coming year or two. Period has been added as an opportunity as the maximum drop in CO2 intensity has been seen in these times, and some strategic shifts are focused rather than technological demands. So for recommendation or optimal implementation plan, this project is on go as federal government announced a 10.4 billion investment on readily available technologies and to boost workforce. So biodiesel at this very moment seem to be financially as well as economically the most viable option we can see from our appraisal perspective, as being a leader in Australia in terms of energy and resource. And so without investing heavily on infrastructure, we can reduce the emission intensity, more relying on alternate fuels such as natural gas and biodiesel.